Bucks then.
Yes. But I relax here, so this is my nice getaway,
You
my
call
base.
this relaxing?
Oh, I love
Dealing with me
this.
is relaxing?
Oh yes, I love this is
Well,
my
you
getaway.
need a life.
Hey, hey,
You ready to
podcast.
go on the air?
I love this. Yes, let's do this.
Okay, goodbye.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's 4 p.m. in Los Angeles. It's 7 p.m. in New York City. And in Chicago, it's 6 o'clock. Hey, everybody, it's Thursday night. I'm your host, Mad Dog DeCipio, and you have reached What's the Buzz. I'm joined, as I am each and every Tuesday and Thursday, by this fine lady. She's a pain in the ass, but she's a nice person.
And I didn't call that gray hair.
How you doing, kid?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Then we had a really interesting week. We usually do Tuesday and Thursday, but we did a show last night. Wednesday night, very unusual, but we did a Wednesday night show and got a hell of a response on it. We did a show last night. In case you missed it, you check it out on YouTube or our Facebook or Podbean. You can go to our Podbean. What's the Buzz Podbean? We did a show on the Beatles, Paul McCartney in particular. And the death and replacement of Paul McCartney. A lot of people think that Paul ain't Paul. The guy walking around calling himself Paul McCartney is an imposter, a phony, a scandalous cad, if you will. But we can debate this for nobody's going to know, Amelia, until he passes away.
Or until you listen to the interviews that you showed yesterday.
Yeah, well, there is an interview you're going to see it in a little while. Well, not tonight, of course, but because we're going to revisit Paul for sure. But you're going to see an interview where he kind of like gives it up basically and says, "Oh well, here I am now,"
Yeah.
Oh well.
Here, I reveal to the world.
Because, look, you can't, Amelia, how often do I say it?
You can't make this shit up.
You can't make this shit up. We had two women on the show last night. They've been here before. Ann Walsh and Marianne Howard. They wrote 2 books and they have 2 more in the works, okay? 4 books on the same subject, okay? If you want to tell me about a rumor that's got legs, that's running like crazy, this has got some serious traction, this rumor. Yes. There's got to be something to it because it's not going away. In fact, it's growing.
Yes, and he's about to be caught.
And yeah, well, something's going to happen fairly soon with the old Paul is dead movement. Something's got to break really quick.
Yes.
We have an interesting show tonight. I want to tell everybody, first of all, welcome to the radio. What's the Buzz? Listen to me. Wrestling with the Future Radio Network presents What's the Buzz. Tonight, we are doing a special look back at the siege at Waco, Texas. And if you were around 1993, February or so, February 26th, I believe, 27th, somewhere around there. In Waco, Texas, I'll tell you what turned out to be a simple serving of a warrant ended up being a 51-day standoff and more than a dozen people dying.
Yes.
all because a guy didn't want to answer the door.
No.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. You're going to see some disturbing video tonight. So we had to issue a kind of a disclaimer in sorts. So to let you know, you're going to see and hear some very disturbing video, particularly when it comes to the teachings of David Koresh and how he feels about women, how he feels about his children. It's not for the faint of heart. I will tell you that. I will also tell you that if you are of the mindset to join us tonight, and you feel like you want to chime in, oh, my mother-in-law's here. Hey, Mom, how are you? Yeah, my mother-in-law's here. That's Mary Teet. That's my mother-in-law. That's Nita's wife. Nita's mom.
Yes. It was a pleasure to meet you the other day.
Yeah. So we have a really interesting show, the siege at Waco. It's going to be a good one. I want people to know right off the bat, the clips I'm using tonight have all been cleared. They are all public domain clips. You're going to see for the first time home video of David Koresh inside the compound. In fact, as he had gotten shot, okay, and he's sitting on his bed. I'm going to show you that interview. He's sitting on his bed and he's bleeding, and he's talking to the camera to let everybody know that, they're safe inside, everybody's okay. But then you're going to see another video that tells a very different story. So, Amelia, let me introduce you. This is Amelia Pitbull Chapman. Amelia, you lived in Odessa, Texas, about 5 hours away.
That is correct.
From Waco. And you lived there at the time, correct?
Yes. I was 2 years after I had graduated high school.
Okay. Tell everybody what it was like to live in Texas at that time.
Well, I mean, it was just about when the oil boom was still going on. It was, pretty good town, and you wouldn't really hear a lot of what was, that stuff going on. And then when that happened, we're like, oh my gosh, that's really happening about 5 hours away from us. And you would not really, you were kind of scared to really go anywhere, because you would think, well, are they going to come get us too? Or are they going to come, like that, try to kidnap us, try to, have us go out there. So us girls were like really scared to be, around that kind of stuff.
Well, is it fair, Amelia, to say that people were on edge?
Yes, very on edge, because guns and rifles and, whatever they had, you didn't know if they were going to come out and rob you, or are we going to be also safe at night? Are we going to be curfew as well? Even if it's 5 hours away, you didn't know.
Did you have any friends or family or associates that were near that situation?
Well, I had maybe a couple of friends that, of course, I graduated high school, and one of them was like, oh, come, I'm going to probably go over there because I can be free over there. I can be away from my parents or my mother because I'm gay and she doesn't understand me. And I'm like, no, you need to stay here. You need to be over here. Maybe you could just talk to your mother. No, I'm going to go over there. And I never really knew what happened to her. We never heard of her.
Did you know whether she ever became a part of the Branch Davidian group?
We never heard from her again, actually. Really? So I don't know what happened to her.
That's really interesting. I would love to know what happened in that situation. I would love to have spoken to, and by the way, we tried to reach out to one of the survivors. We have been in contact with one of the survivors. They respectfully declined, because it's even now, all these years later, it's still very difficult for her to talk about this. Yes. You're talking almost 25 years ago.
Probably the trauma, and to relive it, and maybe the nightmares that they probably still have to this day.
And that's exactly what she said. That's exactly what she says. She says she still can't close her eyes to sleep restfully because of all this. It's imprinted. It's like a
Yes.
movie that plays in your head all the time.
Yeah, probably any noise or any kind of
And things like a loud door, a slamming door
yes.
will sound like a gunshot to her.
Exactly. It's like if they're
So
people coming back from the military from overseas, anything like that will
yeah.
trigger them, like
Oh yeah, it's
PTSD.
traumatic. It's like post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
Let me tell everybody a little bit about this. On February 28th, and I correct myself because I said the 26th. On February 28th, 1993, federal law enforcement agents came face to face with the Branch Davidians, a controversial group whose followers described themselves as students of the Bible, and they lived outside of Waco, Texas. The standoff began between these federal agents and the Branch Davidians, and it dominated the headlines for months, probably. The standoff lasted 51 days.
Yes.
And I'll bet you that dominated the news probably 5-6 months
Yes, it did.
easily.
Mhm.
The siege left 75 people dead. Think about what I'm telling you. 75 people dead, and changed the way, Amelia, that some Americans felt about the federal government. Because we're going to find out something tonight that nobody knew until recently. And we're going to find out tonight. But I'm going to tell you, keep that in mind, though. The agents were attempting to arrest David Koresh and raid the group's 77-acre complex when they began to exchange heavy gunfire at the site. Now, let me just stop here for a minute. David Koresh's real name is Vernon Howell. Okay. They were trying to serve Vernon Howell. Here was part of the problem. When the FBI and the ATF agents knocked on the door and they asked for Vernon Howell, they said there's nobody here by that name because they knew him as David Koresh. Okay? His legal name is Vernon Howell. Now, remember that because it's going to play into this. Really important, too. By the end of the shootout, 4 agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and 6 Branch Davidians were dead. That's the first day. That was what they call the shot across the bow. That moment sealed everybody's fate, all because they tried to deliver a warrant. All right, we're going to find out what that was all about. That failed operation then turned into a 51-day standoff. Koresh and most of the followers had refused to leave the compound. A handful or so actually did leave, but most of them refused to leave and they stayed with David Koresh. Which was surrounded by tanks, armored vehicles, and more than 600 agents. Now, I want you to think about this. This compound was built by the Branch Davidians.
Right.
Okay. Most of it was built without permits.
Yes.
Okay? They had electricians, they had plumbers, they had people who had trades and skills. But they built this place so flimsy that a good wind could have knocked it down.
Right.
Now.
And we had sandstorms back over there in that west part of Texas where we live at. There's a lot of sandstorms.
Oh, yeah.
So
the standoff ended. Here you go, Amelia. The standoff ended when a fire engulfed the complex on April 19th. Now, think about this. They started this on February 28th, the last day of February. The very last day of February. Okay? You're talking about 2.5 months later. Only 9 people inside the complex survived. Think about that. 9 people survived.
Wow.
Everybody else died. And there were probably 150 to 175, and a lot of them were children.
Oh my gosh.
They're little, and you're going to see some of them tonight. Critics called what happened at Waco a massacre, and it sure the hell was.
Yeah.
We have a lot of information tonight. There's no better way to do this than to let's just go from the first video. On February 28, 1993, federal law enforcement agents came face to face with Branch Davidians, controversial group whose followers described themselves as, quote, students of the Bible, unquote, outside of their Mount Carmel compound, where about 130 of them lived. The agents were attempting to arrest group leader David Koresh and raid the group's 77-acre complex when they began to exchange heavy gunfire at the site. Okay, this is one of the things we're going to talk about. You see what it says on the screen here. Was it over illegal guns inside the compound, or did the federal government want the land? Because we found out something about that land there. It's got oil under it.
Yes.
Okay. For those of you who don't know the geography of Texas, Texas is very, very oil rich.
Yes, it is.
It's a very oil rich state. And the area around Waco is just chock full of oil wells. Yes. There are oil deposits under the ground that would make a very poor man a very rich man in one day.
Oh, very, very, very much so.
Now, we're going to talk about that. That's critical. By the end of the shootout, 4 agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and 6 Branch Davidians were dead. The failed operation then turned into a 51-day standoff. During that time, Koresh and most of his followers had refused to leave the compound, which was surrounded by tanks, armored vehicles, and more than 600 federal agents. The standoff ended when a fire engulfed the complex on April 19, 1993. Only 9 people outside survived. Critics called what happened a Waco a massacre. I want you to look at what's up on the screen right now. It is believed that Timothy McVeigh was inspired by David Koresh. Some of you are too young to know this, but if you were alive at the time, Timothy McVeigh was a military guy, served time in the I believe the Marines.
Marines, yes.
And he also was what we learned at the time, a new term that they used called domestic terrorist.
Yes.
We never heard that term before this time. Timothy McVeigh was described as a domestic terrorist. He and a conspirator, a partner, loaded up a truck with manure and explosives. Now, why would he load up a truck with manure? Because it's entirely gaseous.
Yes.
In other words, if you light up cow manure, horse manure, it's going to burn for hours.
For hours upon hours.
Hours and hours. It's going to burn a long time.
Yes.
What they did was they added explosives to that manure. And that thing took down the side of a building. It was called the Alfred E. Murrow Federal Building.
Oklahoma City bombing.
Oklahoma City, absolutely. And you just saw a picture of it.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about this, Amelia, because we're in a good spot here.
Yes.
When all of this was said and done, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. When all of this was said and done, the federal government came out looking very, very bad.
Oh, yes, they did.
They came out looking like the evil monster. How dare you raid a church and kill children? say what you want about David Koresh. He's he's one of those guys like Charlie Manson, one of those people like Amy Carlson, very charismatic, very intelligent. He knew his stuff. He knew the Bible.
Yes.
He really did. He knew the Bible well. The problem was he perverted the Bible to suit his own need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're going to hear a video tonight of David Koresh blatantly bald-faced lying to a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're going to hear this. You're going to. We have a lot of video tonight, folks.
Yeah, and when
those of you on the radio station, you can't see this, but we have a very descriptive audio track you're going to hear. So just bear with us. Let's take a look at this. This is what we saw at the time. What you're seeing here, if you're not with us on the video, we're looking at a picture of the Waco compound.
Yes,
and it's right now beginning to smolder.
Yes, it must be.
It is believed. It's believed that the rumor was, again, we're talking about the rumor, is that they set the fire themselves.
Yeah,
that's absolutely false. What set the fire in the Waco compound was tear gas canisters. They spark and they ignite. That's what they do.
There's a fire.
Ronnie, for the last 15 minutes, we've watched this M60 vehicle, this combat engineering
what
vehicle,
you're watching, in case you didn't see
make large holes in the side of this building.
2 army tanks just rolled past that building.
And if you notice the flag blowing in the wind up there, must be mid-March right there, because that's during like Easter time. And in Texas, it's really, really windy during that time.
Yeah, and that's important because that wind helps fuel that fire.
Yes, yes. In Texas, growing up, I remember it was very, very windy during the time of March and April.
As I said,
let's take a look at that.
Combat engineering vehicle has been working very diligently around the front door of the complex. Then he'd turn around with a turret and pump tear gas in. And
you heard what he said.
Yes, pump tear gas
pump
in.
Tear gas. It's exactly what I just said. Yep.
Right.
So the idea that the Branch Davidians started the fire inside is completely false.
Yes.
It's absolutely false.
And that was from CNN themselves that said that.
That was from CNN, by the way. What we're also going to see here is, and I want you to take a look at this, Million. We're going to talk about it.
Sure.
Again, we have a lot of video to go through. We're going to go through a few videos, and then we're going to discuss them.
During the siege, the FBI requested that this video be taken in order to show that the kids were safe.
Now, it's important what she just said. The video you're going to see was requested by the FBI. They did, in fact, want to make sure that the children were safe. And the children appeared to be safe. And the people inside appeared to be in good condition. They seemed to be okay. They were there willingly and voluntarily. But David Koresh, as you're looking at him right now, and you're going to see him in a minute, at this point, he's been shot by the FBI or the ATF. And he's got a bullet hole in his stomach. And it came out the side of his back. Okay? And he's going to show you that.
It's also one of the videos that the FBI refused to release to the public until after everything was said and done, because they did not want anybody having sympathy for the Davidians.
Did you hear that? This video was not released at the time. It's only recently been released in the last years.
Let's get into it.
For those of you listening on the radio, we are watching David Koresh, and he's sitting on his bed, and he's been shot at this point. And he has blood on his shirt, and he's very weak, and he's very tired. And he's going to talk a little bit to the camera. So let's just be quiet and listen.
I'd like to share this with my family, and that obviously everyone in the world knows something about it. We just thought we'd break the ice and allow people to see exactly what kind of people we have here. Let's start off first of all with my oldest son. His name is Cyrus.
Now, Amelia, look at this child.
Mm-hmm.
He looks healthy. He doesn't look very happy under the circumstances.
No.
His father's been shot,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought this was a little girl at first.
I thought too at first when he came
because
around.
he's got really, really long blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a religious statement. I'm not sure if they don't cut their hair. Some religions are like that. They don't cut their hair.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with the Branch Davidians. Can you tell me if that's a religious statement, not cutting the hair?
Say hello to everybody.
So he's telling everybody, say hi. Now the kid smiles a little bit, Amelia.
You don't know? Just have faith in God? Okay. And wave to all your friends out there that's taken from the outside. What would you like to have if you could have it? What would you like to have? Don't know? Would you like to ride your motorcycle today?
Yeah. So we're going to see that. Take a look at this a little bit.
What would you like to do today? If you could
This is one of his daughters.
own the swing?
It is believed
Anything else to say?
that Koresh had as many as 28 children.
No?
Wow.
Of course, with everybody else's wife, naturally.
How old are you?
Another child you're looking at. This is a baby, and this little girl is just a baby. She may be a year old. How old do you think that kid is, Amelia? You're a
I
mom.
mean, almost 2, maybe a year.
Maybe two-ish. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe almost 2 there. Yeah.
Okay.
There's another one. This must be 4 years old, 3 or 4.
Yeah, there's another little girl. Another baby. A lot of babies in this place. David Koresh had a lot of children. And apparently, one of the things that I wasn't aware of until recently, but the Branch Davidians are very big in Australia.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Lots of different countries.
Yeah, particularly Australia. That's where David Koresh met 5 of his wives.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should say 5 of his everybody else.
Baby mommies.
Yeah, baby mamas. This is so strange. It really is, folks. Because he bedded everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Strange. So, yeah, this is just a little baby. Maybe a year and a half. Maybe. I don't know.
Hello.
And now there's a couple of children. And now this woman, she's one of Koresh's wives. Now, keep that in mind, because you're going to hear him say that he only has one wife. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Another, here's yet another wife. Imagine that.
Hello. Come on, come here. Made it very clear. The fact that we have a God on our side that lets us know.
Now he's doing, he's playing the God card now.
You understand? So you understand this.
Here's the one thing, Amelia, and everybody at home. Here's the one thing that every cult, without exception, every cult and every cult leader is going to play the God card. They're going to play the "they don't understand us" card. They're going to play the "we know something they don't" card.
Yes.
Okay. Understand this, and here's just the way life is. Okay. There's nothing new. Nothing's original. It's all been done before. Your cult is just like the next guy's cult, because he thinks he's God just like you think you're God. Okay? Just like Amy Carlson thought she was God.
Yeah.
You know, and said it. She said she's God. That's why she's dead now.
Yes.
Take a look at this.
Oh. You don't know. Hold on.
Another. This is another. We've seen about 10 kids already.
Yes, at least 10.
Big. 4.
There's twins. He's holding 2 little babies. 2 twins on his lap.
Huh? They drink a lot of.
Of course, this is just all this craziness here.
They need some help a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, the FBI is involved now, but
Now he's talking about the FBI.
into a fight. Promising, not you.
This is a fairly long video, but we're just, Amelia and I are just popping through it.
Yes.
To give you little highlights.
He's introducing his children to the video.
Yeah. But I think you get the gist of it.
Yes.
So, okay.
Trying to make everybody feel sorry for him because of his
Amelia.
children.
Amelia, let's talk about that. One of the things that I noticed about that was a need. I don't want to say a need, but an intention by David Koresh to put the blame on everybody else but the Branch Davidian, but himself.
Yes.
Okay. You almost have to feel sorry for the other people because they're following this guy like a blind, like the 3 blind mice.
Right.
You know?
I feel sorry for his children because they're put in harm's way.
Absolutely right.
In harm's way.
You're absolutely right. Talk about that from a mom's standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, because they're innocent children, and he's putting them in harm's way, saying, "This is my child. This is my child." I mean, he's putting their face out there for everybody to see. I mean, they could be kidnapped, they could be killed. I mean, just think about that. Innocent children that are brought into this world that they didn't want to be brought into this world.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and those women,
you brought up something really good. You brought up something really good. A good point. That he's putting his children's faces out there for the world to see.
Yes.
But maybe in the back of his head, he knows that they're not coming out of that place. Maybe he knows this is the last time anybody's going to see them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless the mom can find a way to say, okay, she maybe found a way to escape or found a way to hide. To find a way to escape.
That's actually, somebody did do that. Somebody did get out.
Yeah.
In fact, a couple of them.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting thing that we haven't said yet, and I saved it for now. That videotape was shot by an FBI agent.
Oh, wow.
They let him in. I want you to think about that. They let him in with a video recorder.
Wow.
Okay. And the guy, of course, did not have a gun on him, but he was going in blind. We'll talk about blind faith. This FBI guy must have had balls of steel.
They could have shot him any moment right then.
Exactly. He went in with no weapon and a video camera. Okay. Because if anything was going to happen to this FBI agent, 600 to 700 FBI and militia and government people were going to take that place down to the ground.
With him in it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. With him in it is exactly right.
I wonder if he got to maybe to a couple. He got the ladies in there and maybe got to a couple of them and say, "Look, follow me here," or they said, "Come here, come here. I found a way to escape. It's right here."
I'd say it's really an interesting question. It's a possibility. Let's take a look at this.
When they did, Koresh apparently told his followers to ignite the compound using lantern fuel.
Now, we're going to stop right there. That's absolutely not true. That was propaganda by the government to tell the news media, tell them that Koresh lit this place on fire themselves. That's not what happened. We know what happened. The tear gas canisters ignited. And I told you guys before, they built this place with no permits.
No.
And we're talking about 77 acres and a huge ass building. It was friggin' huge. Okay? And like I said, it was put together so flimsy, a good wind could have took this place down.
Oh, yeah. And you saw how windy Texas gets.
You're going to see proof of that right here.
Oh, my God, they are killing themselves. That is how federal agents say they reacted when the Branch Davidian compound was set ablaze. The fire followed a move earlier in the day by authorities to first use a battering ram to ram down the front door and then spray.
I want you to see what they're doing. That's an army tank, okay?
Oh, yes.
That tank went through that wall like a piece of paper, okay? Those walls may as well have been paper thin because they were anyway. They were made out of sheetrock and a couple of 1x4s.
Yes.
Not your standard building material, for sure.
In massive amounts of gas.
We will continue to apply the pressure.
Did you hear what the reporter just said? What did he say?
Apply the pressure.
Here's what he said.
Continue to apply the pressure. We will try to make their living environment as uncomfortable as possible.
We're going to make their living environment as uncomfortable as possible.
Yes.
What you heard before that was that they hit the place with a battering ram and unloaded a bunch of gas inside. If you didn't hear that, I want you to hear it again because it's really important. Listen.
The front door and then spray in massive amounts of gas.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
And sprayed in massive amounts of gas. So where did the gas come from? Did not come from inside?
No, it did not.
It came from outside. And again, I'm not. Look, I think Koresh is as kooky as the day is long. All right, but what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. And the government was wrong. If they wanted to serve a warrant on David Koresh, all they had to do was walk in the front door. A 98-pound woman opened the door. It would have been nothing to go right past her.
Yes, and say, excuse me, but I have to go in.
For crying out loud, you know?
Yes. And so we're here to serve a warrant.
Apply the pressure. We will try to make their living environment as uncomfortable as possible.
Federal authorities here say they had to up the ante. They believe that Koresh was further fortifying the compound. Today's move was approved by Attorney General Janet Reno.
I approved the plan, and I'm responsible for it. I advised the president, but I did not advise him as to the details.
You heard what she said.
Yes.
She advised the president, but she did not advise him of the details. And that is why Janet Reno served one term as Attorney General, because she was the most inept, incompetent law enforcement that we've ever had at that highest level in the country.
We cannot wait to get her out of the office.
Oh my God,
to be honest
please.
with you.
Oh.
It was the worst part of it. And when all of that was going on, it was, remember how the O.J. Simpson trial was like on 24/7 pretty much? That's all that we had on over and over and over.
It was 24/7, absolutely.
Yeah, and with Waco, it was on 24/7, 24/7. I mean, that's all that we had to watch the whole time for those 51 days. We were like
all
glued
day,
to the
all
TV.
night. Absolutely.
We were glued to the TV, wondering what's going on. And when you had brought back earlier the church, how could people get mad at the church, because that's all they would say was the church, the church, the church. How could people, why were they getting mad at the FBI because of the children? That's all they were preaching was the church. They weren't saying the middle of it, the main meat of it, like you were saying.
When Amelia gets excited, she talks really fast and uses her hands.
Yeah, well, they weren't saying the main part of it, like the David Koresh.
No, you're absolutely right.
They weren't saying the children, they were just bringing that part of it. They were not saying that he was this type of person. They weren't giving the main part of the reason why. They weren't saying any of it. They were just making the church this, the church that, the children. They weren't telling why.
Here's let's back up just a hair. This all started. This whole mess started because they came to serve a warrant. Here's why they served a warrant.
Right.
They had probable cause to believe, based on information from a former cult member who got out.
That was his son. Wasn't that the lady's son that was a former member? Yes.
What happened was, she and her son went forward and told their story to the police. The police said, okay, we will take care of it. Okay. So they brought in the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Why did they do that? Because what they were to believe was that David Koresh was stockpiling guns and weaponry inside this compound. Okay. The cult members who left were telling people that this is a doomsday cult.
Yes.
That they're prepared to go out with a bang.
Exactly.
And they have guns. They've got, grenades. They got little bombs. They have rifles, automatic weapons. They have all this stuff. Okay. Only part of that was true. They had guns.
Yes.
And a couple of rifles. They didn't have any automatic weapons.
They did not.
Okay. The automatic weapons that you're going to see were planted. And you can't make this stuff up.
And allegations of sexual abuse with children. Also, they were saying that.
Hold on. We haven't even touched that. Don't get too far ahead, Amelia. We haven't even touched that one yet.
A lot of questions need to be asked about why today. Why was it so important to run those tanks in there and the tear gas today? Relatives of cult members outside the compound were visibly shaken by the day's events.
He wouldn't have done that to those children. No, not his family neither. Somebody said it. I just had a premonition yesterday.
What was that telling about what?
I never see her again.
And late word here from Waco is that one body may have been removed from inside the compound. It is not known if that would be the body of cult leader David Koresh, although he is presumed dead inside. 9 survived, 2 of those in critical condition, although none of the 17 children believed to be inside the compound were numbered.
Okay. So, you just heard a little bit about how they reported this. They're making, and they did a fairly decent job of keeping it even. The problem is, when the national news got a hold of it, that's when it got sensationalized. The local news in Texas did a good job.
Yes, they did.
They reported it for what it is and what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But when you got the big CNN, MSNBC, when you got all these big, heavy hitters coming into town, now all of a sudden it takes on a circus atmosphere.
It did.
Oh boy, did it.
Yes.
Oh man, it sure hell did. Let's listen to this woman, Amelia.
We have no one telling the world our side. Watching the lies that the federal agents have told, it's astounding. Before you judge us, make sure your own life is clean.
During the early stages of the negotiation, we were concerned about the welfare of everybody in there, so we asked them if they'd be willing to send out a videotape. And David kind of seized on the opportunity.
Roll the tape. Let's take a look.
David, anything you'd like to say?
First of all, I'd like to thank the negotiators. I'd like to share with you some of my family, and we just thought we'd kind of break the ice and allow people to see just exactly, what kind of people we have here. I'd like to start off first of all with my oldest son. His name is Cyrus. Come sit over here, son. How old are you?
7.
7. Say hello to everybody.
Hi.
Wave at them.
And believe it or not, Amelia,
did Cyrus survive?
Believe it or not, I was just about to say that. Believe it or not, that little boy survived. He was one of the very few that did.
Nobody on this tape survived. Later in the tape.
Did you hear what he said? Nobody on the tape survived. Only Cyrus, the little boy. We're going to talk about this after this video.
He actually brings out...
There's a lot to talk about.
The daughter that he, David, had with Steve Schneider's wife.
Come over here.
But Steve's behind the camera filming this whole thing. And we were all just kind of taken back. Finally registered the magnitude of how much control this guy exerted over those people.
There was some criticism that this video was not made public at the time, and the notion is among critics that the FBI didn't want people to see what appears to be happy children inside this compound.
And that's the truth. What do you think about that?
Wow. I think they were happy kids. I mean, they didn't know any better. I mean, they're just little kids. They were
exactly.
They were just taught what they were taught in there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like they had their own little,
their own little
world. Look, I mean, I'm not a big proponent of cloistered lifestyles like, cults and, I'll give you a perfect example. I don't like the idea of priests living in a rectory together.
Right.
Or nuns living in a convent. Because you can call that a cult if you want to.
Exactly.
You can, anything that's that cloistered, separated from the rest of society, you can make the argument, and you can do it all day long. That's a cult.
Yes.
People think the Catholic Church is a cult.
I've heard that a lot from a lot of different people.
Absolutely. And guess what? They wouldn't be wrong.
Nope.
To that.
I don't think so. First of all, we don't conduct our investigation in the media. So if there was a delay at releasing the tapes, that probably was because of the ongoing investigation.
ATF, you boys are wrong. And if there's any question whatsoever that kids or women are involved, damn you, I tell you what, you keep your damn gun in your holster. You got to argue with me, you catch me on the side of the road somewhere, you come and argue with me. You come point guns in the direction of my wives and my kids, I'll meet you at the door any time.
What do you think about that?
I don't think so, because he had the wives meet him at the door instead of him. He hid. Right? He hid.
Well, it looks like this, and again, you can make the argument for and against the cult, the cult angle of this. Were they an actual cult? Were they a church? Were they a communal environment, as many people believe? I mean, think about it. They had their own farm. They had their own garden.
Mm-hmm.
They had animals there. They had horses. They had pigs that they ate, and they had other animals that they slaughtered there. A couple of people there were butchers that knew how to do meat.
All right.
If they weren't bothering anybody, then what the hell? And why just leave them alone, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, they had a license to file under the church, but they were actually a cult. Of the way they practiced.
Well, I
mean?
can see the argument for that. I'd like to. I'm really curious because you opened up a box of worms on that one.
Well, I mean, you know how you file under a church, you file for
Well,
taxes,
they did have it.
ID.
They had a tax exempt status,
right? But
as a religious organization. By the way, you might be surprised to find this out because I sure was.
Mm-hmm.
The Branch Davidians began in 1935.
I kind of was like, whoa. That back,
yeah.
like,
this
what?
is not a new group.
Mm-mm.
They've been around a long time.
And I think that they still are, aren't they? Didn't
They're
somebody
still
pick up
very
after
much.
him?
Wait, are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
They're still in Waco, and they rebuilt their. I swear to you, I can't make it up.
Wow.
They rebuilt the Waco compound.
Wow, it's a quiet community.
But what they did, though, this time they were smart. They built little buildings instead of one giant building. But David Koresh had this giant building. You're going to see it in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He had bedrooms, bathrooms, couple of kitchens, a classroom, a church inside. But they taught school in there. A couple of the women were school teachers. A couple of the men were Bible teachers. David Koresh did all the preaching. You're going to see some of this stuff.
Right. But I mean, think about it. I mean, if all the husbands had to give their wives to him, that is a cult. Think about it.
Well, yeah.
And they can't have their
I want
wives?
you to think about something, though. You got to think about something. The Mormons are kind of the same way, because the Mormons, and you can't make this up, polygamy is legal in Utah. It's legal in the state of Utah to have more than one wife.
Wow.
There's a very famous polygamist named Alex Joseph. He's dead now. But Alex Joseph had 37 wives.
Wow.
The youngest was 14 years old.
14?
David Koresh was married to 19 women. The youngest was 12.
Wow.
That's a fact. Look it up. Look it up. I tell people, if you don't believe me, you don't have to believe me, ladies and gentlemen. Look it up for yourself.
Wow.
It's the fact. It's the truth. The youngest wife David Koresh had was 12. That's a pervert. That's not a polygamist.
That's what I was going to say.
That's a pervert.
Yes.
That's a sick fuck. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Amelia. Go ahead.
No, I'm speechless. With 12 years old, you got to be kidding me.
No, 12 years old. I'm not even shitting you.
I would have gone there myself with my own gun and shot that man.
Here you go.
Balls off myself.
How many wives do you have? One. One wife.
You hear what he said?
The
guy says, how many wives do you have? One wife. Liar.
Have you have I committed adultery? Is what you're fixing to have? Have you committed adultery? No, I don't commit adultery. You telling me the truth? I'm telling you the truth. Have you beaten children? No, I do not beat children. Have you spanked them? Yes, I spank children. I spank my children when they do wrong. My daddy You know what he used to do to me when I used to act up, when I had a bad report card? You imagine we got our tails womped. Having my tail womped, I told myself as a young man, when I grow up, I'm going to do it different. And I do it different. She says that I spanked him. Whoa. Whoa. You better ask her again who spanked him till his bottom bled.
I think the girl's name was Aisha.
Yeah, was her parents there? Her parents were there.
Did you do it?
No, I didn't do it.
You have guns?
Yeah, we have some.
Well, can we see that? Is that okay?
Well, I guess if you want. You know. Now, you know what the public thinks about guns. You know in this country right now, legislation is to ban all guns. Right?
So you just heard him admit they have guns there.
Yes.
Okay. Which is a problem because he told the ATF and the FBI that they didn't have any guns.
Right, exactly. He said, we have no guns.
Now he's telling the reporter with a camera in his face and a microphone pointed at him, we got guns here.
And you can see them.
And it makes nobody's business whether we have a gun or not at this place. Guns are the right of Americans to have. Our government's the greatest in the world. We have freedom, not freedom for religion, not freedom for state, but freedom for all, you see? And that's what a lot of people don't understand. You know, it's...
You just saw, for those of you that are listening, we just saw in this video a part of the classroom that would be critical to this story here, and you're going to find out why shortly.
Guns in a situation like this is something that can be, you know how people think. You know, y'all don't have guns in Australia. A lot of people say, he's got guns, that makes him bad, that makes him a cult. You know? It's just a raw deal in this touchy subject we're dealing with.
Would you use a gun if somebody came in here?
They come in here with a gun and they start shooting at us, what would you do? Tell me, be realistic. This is America. This is not Australia. This is not Europe. This is not where a country overthrows a bunch of people, takes away their weapons so that the people cannot argue any issues.
Interesting stuff. You just saw part of that classroom. That would be very important because that's where, when all the shit hit the fan, that's where he ordered everybody to gather in that room. And you can tell a little bit by the video, it's a sizable room, but it's not super huge.
No, it's real
cramped. Fit maybe 50 people in there, but you're talking about 3 times that amount that were crammed in that room. When they when the dust settled and the fire was extinguished, those people were piled on top of each other in that room.
And that little clip
died there, knowing they were dying.
That little clip that you also showed, that was the rifle was the one into evidence, correct?
One of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait, here you go.
Agents prepared for the worst in dealing with the Branch Davidians and cult leader David Koresh.
Exit the compound and keep your hands in the air.
Huge numbers of Americans watched this play out on their television sets, and the ending was incredibly horrifying.
The FBI standoff with the Branch Davidians ended over 20 years ago. So why do these images continue to hold so much power today?
I'll be honest, we saw what happened at Waco. I think you have to worry about Waco when people start showing up with guns and saying they're willing to take on the federal government.
Waco can happen at any given time, but the outcome will be different this time. Of that, I can assure you.
Get back! Get back
now! Interesting stuff. I want to talk about this.
The outcome won't be different. It'll be worse.
You're absolutely right.
It'll be
You're
worse because
absolutely
more
right.
people will be killed. It will be more tear gas. It
It
won't be
will.
less tear gas. It'll
They
be
will.
more
First of all,
guns.
the government doesn't give a shit.
Nope, they
Okay,
don't.
the government is heartless, soulless, has no remorse, doesn't care. Uh, People are expendable to governments.
Oh,
Understand that.
yes, absolutely
Okay.
they are.
The people you saw at the end of that video were freedom fighters and militiamen. All right. That the gentleman in that video, the old man with the glasses,
Mhm.
just recently died. In fact, he passed away. I actually reached out to him to try and get him on the show and found out that he just recently died.
No. Oh, sorry.
So I would have loved to had him on the show.
Mhm.
But what Waco did do was wake people up. Waco was a wake up.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And people need to know that now. People that are too young to remember or just think it'll never repeat itself. Trust me. History always repeats itself.
Yes, it does in the worst way. And the government will make it look like it's the other people's fault, but it's the government. They'll try to come out clean, but they won't. Just
Yeah.
like today,
Well,
the
remember what
so-called
Jim Jones said.
Mhm.
Because we're actually going to do him next week.
Yes.
Little sneak a little plug in there.
Mhm.
Jim Jones said one of the things he said was those people who live in the past, are condemned to repeat it. I
Yes.
think that's the lesson of Waco.
Oh, absolutely it is.
That's the lesson of Waco. If you live in that past, you're going to repeat it.
Yes, you are.
Okay, here's the question I have for you. Knowing what I said about Waco, Texas, and the Branch Davidians being there now, are we looking at another Waco?
Well, they have been very quiet. They have not bothered anybody.
True.
They're going to keep to themselves as long as the FBI and everybody leaves them alone, basically.
Yeah, true. They have been quiet. They have kept to themselves. I think that they're a group of people that they want to be left alone to worship, their God, however they want to worship their God.
Yes. And as long as they don't as long as the FBI leaves them alone, they'll be left alone. Just like remember when they had the hurricane here, just like today, we had the so-called person that calls himself president. He came here for a few hours, shook little hands, shook the governor's hand, whatever his name is. I don't care about him anyway, but he's like, okay, I'm here. Hi, bye. Thank you. You remember a few years ago when the best president we had, Donald Trump, was here? We had another disaster. Well, him and Melania Trump came and shook hands, and cars were in line to get paper towels and cleaning supplies and water. Who handed them out? Donald Trump, our president himself, shook hands, said, hi, how are you? Is everything okay? Is there anything else I could do for you? Took photos with everyone. It was really sweet. And so did the First Lady Melania.
Well, you know why, Amelia, you know why that they don't like people like Donald Trump? Simple. Can't control him.
Exactly. And look at the one that we have now. Yeah, bye.
This guy.
We don't need him here. Go bye. Just leave.
He's got a puppeteer's hand up his ass, okay?
Yeah. I was glad when he left. I was like, we don't need you here. Go away.
Let's not get off on that tangent.
But you know what I mean? But it's like that. As long as
he
leaves us alone, just bye. Basically like that. As long as they don't mess with Waco, they won't, just leave us alone.
The last and final of the video.
People died that day at Mount Carmel. 5 children and 12 adults, including David Koresh, were shot dead by fellow Davidians. Independent arson investigators concluded the Davidians.
Now, did you hear what he said?
5 children.
Yeah. But what he said was that they were shot by fellow Davidians.
Yes.
I don't believe that for a moment.
I think it was the FBI that did it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they made it
I
look like
absolutely believe that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I want you to look at this scene over here.
Yes.
You're talking about tanks,
Mm-hmm.
helicopters, munitions vehicles with artillery guns on them.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a war zone.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't look like a church.
It does
looks
not.
like a war zone.
Davidians deliberately started the fire. No one has ever fully explained why.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Look at that ashes. Just
He
like
said, yeah, hold on a minute. Let's talk about that. He says, the reporter says that the FBI believes that the Branch Davidians started the fire
deliberately.
Deliberately.
Yes.
Why would you do that?
You wouldn't. You want to get out of there. You want to survive. You want to not die that way.
I would think so. I think the same way. I
would not want to die that way. I would want to
especially in a fire, a blazing inferno like that with children.
Especially for my children. I want to save and get them out of there.
Let's take a listen.
It looked pretty brutal. On the far right in this country, Waco was the convincing last straw that the government had in fact become a murderous tyranny.
And he's absolutely right.
Exactly.
And that's the lesson of Waco. Don't trust the government. They will fuck you over. They'll kill you. They'll kill your children. They'll dispose of the bodies. No one will ever know. And most people won't even care.
My reaction to Waco
he just died.
Was horror. It was the defining moment, I think, of the late 20th century in terms of the relationship between the citizen and the government.
And that is that's I would call, that's the exclamation point on this entire thing. And he's absolutely right. The exclamation is simple. This is tyranny at its absolute classic best. It's the government rolling over the citizens. In this case, the worst possible way, in a religious organization setting. Now, let's talk about what they really wanted. What do you think they really wanted, Amelia?
Basically to those people that went in that were ex members of the cult to see if that was really happening. Basically to check and see if they really had the guns, the molestation charges, things like that. Basically first, and then go on to see what else was going on.
I agree to some extent. What they really wanted, and what they had, people don't know this. They had people on the inside.
That's what I was gonna say.
They had cult members that were feeding the FBI information.
Didn't they have an actual FBI agent that was undercover in there as well?
Absolutely.
At one? Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're remembering right.
Yes.
Here's what they really wanted. They didn't go there to seize the guns. They did go there to see what David Koresh was all about, for sure. But they went there because they wanted that land. 77 acres of land. That's a lot of, it's a big piece of property.
It is for oil.
Okay. That's a big piece of property. But those people, and there were like 400 plus members of that group. What they did was they all put their money in and they purchased that land as a church. Okay. And they built, what you saw was their compound. They called it the compound.
Yes.
Okay. Essentially, that's what they wanted, was what was on that land,
The
which
land
was
rights.
oil.
Mm-hmm.
They had oil under that. They wanted that property because it tested positive as having a fairly decent size oil reservoir under it. All right. But if you listen to the press, well, they just wanted to see what was going on. They want to make sure nobody was being abused. Okay, well, that's a legit reason. It's also a smokescreen. Okay. Because the FBI, ATF, all these organizations are not above or beyond using God or religion to get what they want. Because the government doesn't believe in religion.
No.
The government believes in government. The government doesn't believe in God. The government is atheist. That's a fact. Governments are atheists. They don't believe in religion. They can't. It goes against who they are.
Right. Because there's a lot of big companies in Midland, Texas, where I was from. There's a lot of big oil tycoon companies that would probably wanted to come and swoop in and take that because a lot of my family too, they had some oil companies too, but of course it's been a long lawsuit as well. But there's a lot of oil companies in Midland that are rich men that would want to take that land as well, and they're going to do anything they can, any which way they can, to get that oil, that land. And they have to get the oil rights for it, the land rights to get it. They're going to get it any way they can.
Absolutely.
And if they know the FBI, they're going to pay a little bit of money to get that any way they can and how they can. And they don't care who is going to be killed, whether it be children, adults, they don't care.
Yep. The standoff ended when a fire engulfed the complex on April 19th, 1993, 51 days after they showed up. Only 9 people inside survived. Critics called what happened at Waco a massacre. It was beyond a massacre. It was a decimation. It was evisceration. It was an absolute bloody living hell for those people who died in that inferno. You can't call that a fire. No. That was an inferno. That's like a blazing hell.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it left ashes and dust to dust, as they say.
But you're supposed to believe that it was all David Koresh's fault. And I'm not, trust me, folks, when I tell you, I'm not taking the Koresh side here. I'm really not.
We're not.
What we're saying is what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And the government was wrong. So too was David Koresh. In fact, there's no rights about this.
No.
There's no, the only thing right, if you want to say it was right, is that I'll give them credit. The Branch Davidians stood up for their property. They defended their property. Sadly, they did not have the kind of gunpowder, to go against the military. If you have, I don't know, let's just, for whatever, if you got a couple of rifles, even if you have a machine gun, let's be honest.
Right.
Who are you hurting with that?
They can't ever hurt a tank. No.
That's my point. That's my point. Are you really gonna go up against it? Are you gonna think you're gonna hurt a tank?
No.
Or a helicopter, or those armored vehicles? Do you think you're going to hurt anybody with that, with a machine gun? Please.
No.
No. They'll laugh at you.
Yeah, they will say, "Oh, that little thing's going to hurt big old me, the tank."
It's like a pea shooter. Compared to the stuff they had. You saw what they had.
Yeah, it's like you're going to throw a cotton ball at me.
with guns. They had helicopter.
Yes.
What do they call it?
Like an M16 or something like that. They have.
I'm not a military guy, folks. Sorry.
It's like throwing a cotton ball at it and say, "Oh, you're going to hurt me."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's like two wrongs don't make a right, people. Okay, that's basically what it was.
And that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Exactly.
So, what's the lesson to be learned here, Amelia?
Well, just like this, two wrongs don't make a right. But if you're gonna supposedly do something, want something, do it the right way. Don't say
Yeah,
you're gonna serve a warrant for something. Do it the right way. Approach
absolutely.
them for what you want. Do not say you're gonna serve a warrant.
Yeah,
You want
absolutely.
something, ask them for it. Say, this land, I want
Hmm.
to buy it from you. I want to buy it so they could move somewhere else. Just do it
Yeah,
that way.
absolutely. Interesting stuff. Tell everybody what's coming up for us.
Well, let's see. Next week, we actually, as you were talking about, we have Jonestown coming up on the 11th of October. We're going to be talking about that. And on the
Mhm.
13th, we're going to have Heaven's Gate that we're going to be discussing
Phew.
as well with Marshall Applegate, the former
That's going to
actor.
be interesting. They call that the UFO cult.
Yeah, former actor turned cult leader.
Actor turned cult leader Marshall Applegate.
That's going to be interesting because I
He
recognize him.
convinced his followers. Listen to this shit. We're going to talk about it. He convinced his followers that a UFO was coming to pick them up and take them to heaven.
Wow.
This is the kind of
That one is.
I know you hear it
whoa.
from me every week, but you can't make this shit up. You can't. Life is far crazier than anything Amelia or Angelo can make up. I assure you, because we got pretty active imaginations,
right? This
but
one,
life is a whole lot more fucked up than we are. Okay, I assure you, it really
They
is.
had to have the right certain kind of clothes, right, to wear, or else they.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
We'll
Absolutely.
get into that one, but oh my goodness, that one.
Jeez, man, what a mess. What else we got going on?
And my two favorites that you're going to bring back for 2 days. Actually, it's going to be my favorite, but it's the Psychic Realm you're going to bring back for me.
Yeah, we have Kevin Schopel joining us for the Psychic
It's
Realm.
a special hour though for both the nights because
Yes, that's a special 8:00 start for us.
Mhm.
Not 7 as
No.
like we usually do. That'll be an 8:00 start because Kevin is on the West Coast in California.
Yes.
And we're broadcasting here in the East Coast, New York.
Right, because it's going to be a little bit of time for him to kind of prepare. I heard so.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'll tell you what. It was a great show tonight.
Yes.
I think we had a really good, informative show.
And then to close out the month, we're going to have part 2 and part 3 of. Get this, folks. We're going to have to do it again. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but Love Has Won.
Love Has Won.
Part
Yeah,
2
man.
and 3 because part 1.
I
did
got
not just
some
hit the
video.
surface.
I have some video to show people that
That was just the tip of the iceberg, I tell you, because
Yeah.
this lady,
They're not going to believe it.
Amy Carlson, not to be confused with the actress, okay? Amy
Yeah,
Carlson.
no, not the actress Amy Carlson. Please, no.
No.
Not
This
Amy
one-
Carlson from Blue Bloods.
No,
No.
this lady, Amy Carlson, oh my goodness. Ugh.
She was different. Let's put it that way.
That was just the tip of the iceberg.
Amelia Pitbull Chapman. I am the Mad Dog, and we'll see you and enjoy your weekend, folks.
Enjoy your weekend, everyone.
And travel safe. We love you all. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.